I mean, select go live. I don't know if this is going to work on the my Magic. Connect streaming software to go live. I did. Oh, I see. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. I think that one should be good. And then let me know. Are you just trying to keep music here? Which ones are we good on? I should be live on all three of them. All three? Okay, awesome. Thanks. Oh, excuse me. What's that? Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, hi everybody. So, yeah, sorry about the Charlie says go. I always turn you guys on first because I know how to handle this one. Like I'm not streaming it from StreamYard is the program that I've been using to stream to the other platforms. So I always turn you guys on because then it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about this one. I know this one's going to be working just fine. Um, but then I use StreamYard for the others, and I just wanted to make sure that everything is good on those. So Nathan checks those out for me. But hello and welcome. Um, this is a thing I started doing last week. Was the uh, first one, but my talks are I call them enlightened in a cave. It's based on a Buddhist phrase that says it's easy to be enlightened in a cave. I just thought it had a nice ring to it, and the message of that particular saying is uh, so simple but incredibly true, and I think a pretty universal experience for a lot of people. So that's what I mean. Uh, spiritual disquisitions, as I call them. So today, I have another one, and next week I think that I have to work next week. So I don't believe that I'll be having a talk next week. Resume the week after if everything goes according to plan. But this week I want to talk about power of emptiness and space. So that's what today's talk is going to be about. So I received some feedback last week's disquisition, by the way, and I'm so grateful for everyone who was able to attend, either live or whenever the moment was right for them. A lot of people said that it was something that they've been looking for and just really enjoyed the time spent. And likewise, so I appreciate that feedback. So last week we discussed how it's easy to be enlightened in a cave, and that is to say, it's easy to be best when we have minimal distractions or challenges. It becomes much more difficult to uphold our personal virtues in the face of adversity and moments of personal frustration. I invited you all to get in the habit of pausing between the stimulus of frustration and adversity and the reaction to it. And that may have proved itself more difficult than you may have thought. It certainly did in my life. My entire week, it seemed, was full of moments of frustration and challenges and kind of being called forth to practice what you preach, so to speak. Um, I am confident in saying that I did not pass all of those opportunities with flying colors. Some I think I probably outright failed. Um, hopefully, this next week goes a little bit more smoothly for me. But as I like to say, progress over perfection. So that's really uh, that was something that I took from my week last week. Another thing that I will say, those of you who have been following me for a while on YouTube or things like that, you know that I typically choose a word for the year, like for the upcoming year, which we're coming up soon. And what I found over probably like 13 years of doing this now, choosing a word of the year, is you have to be really careful because when you choose, or at least in my life, when I choose a word of the year, it's almost like the universe conspires and it's like, "Oh, really? That's what you want to experience in your life? Okay, great. Then we are going to provide you with opportunities to have you actively choose it." Like one year, I chose the word love, and that year did not feel like the most loving, like, it didn't feel like I was being supported with universal love. It felt like every every week it seemed there was a new opportunity for me to actively choose love, to I could choose to either, um, be in, like, a state of hatred or fear or anger or, uh, jealousy, or I could choose love. So it was sort of like this opportunity to consistently, every single week, reaffirm that, yes, I choose love. So that's kind of when we go through this, you may notice that last week we talked about it's easy to be enlightened in chaos. So, okay, practice it. And, I'm not sure about those of you, uh, who watched last week and who took that invitation. I'm not sure if you were faced with the same sort of challenges that I was, but it definitely felt like it was like, "Okay, you want that? Then prove it. Here you go. Here, choose to exercise your virtues. We'll give you plenty of opportunities to exercise your virtues this week," and that's kinda how my week went. So this week, I would like to expand upon the power of that pause. So I ask you to, when you have a stimulus in your life that kind of creates that feeling of dissonance or upset or anger or frustration, to kind of give yourself a pause before you respond to it, because a lot of times we will behave in a reactionary way to that stimulus, and sometimes that just that sliver of time to give ourselves a moment to think about it. Nathan, my partner, he grew up with his dad kind of reinforcing to him, think twice and say nothing. That is a beautiful lesson that I was never taught, and I have never learned. I'm ashamed to say, but that's what we talked about last week. So this week, I want to expand upon the power of that pause before reacting and the empty space we provide ourselves throughout our days. So, a lot of you already know, I'm of Japanese heritage, so a lot of my practice comes from my ancestral, uh, various ancestral religions and ancestral practices, um, and also kind of concepts, like Japanese concepts. And there's a Japanese concept called ma. It's essentially the presence of emptiness or space. This extends both to space in physicality as well as emptiness in time. So, ma is the quiet stillness you choose to give yourself between tasks or meetings. It's the openness of a meadow unobstructed by buildings. A lot of people, when they watch Studio Ghibli films, they're so fascinated and enraptured by the scenery and just the animation itself with the settings, and that's because those all have what would be known as good you have these sprawling meadows and big expansive blue skies and not a lot of cluttered things, like, not a lot of things kind of directing your attention elsewhere. It's just meadow and sky, and it evokes a very peaceful, um, kind of connected feeling. It's, the negative space in a painting. So if you look at traditional Japanese artwork, you'll see a negative space. A lot of times there'll be, it's like a lot of it is like panel artwork, and there'll be, maybe some mountains and trees over here, but then there'll be the like white or gray space where there's just nothing, and that's intentional. That's providing good mom to the painting. The point is that the space and this emptiness is just as important as the content itself. So it's just as important as the tasks or the meetings. The Ma is important in our schedule as the actual to-do list or the meetings or the appointments. That empty time in our day just as important. And it's that emptiness in that landscape just as important as the buildings or the cityscape. In our Western world, we tend to have poor Ma. Our schedules are jam-packed with to-do lists, appointments, engagements, work, tending to our homes, at cooking homemade meals, raising children, hosting or attending parties, and the list goes on. We live in a world where people are forced to actually schedule moments of quiet and peace and stillness instead of having our days naturally punctuated by that. In our homes, we in the Western world tend to surround ourselves with material items. We'll pack our rooms kind of wall to wall with furniture, technology, and gadgets. For many of us, we aren't even able to find a blank wall in our home to offer us the healing and cleansing power of Ma. Now, as a side note, this is no judgment on those who are into like, what's it called? Maximalism, or people who are like really into like Victorian stuff is very like heavy drapes and lots of furniture. No disrespect to those who that's their personal taste. I'm just speaking in our society as Westerners, we have built into the fabric of our society and our social DNA this need to consume, and that interferes with the ability to have good mom. Alright, so I saw a reel on Instagram this week. It was a funny reel. I shared it on my Charlie Says Go stories, if you watch those. And it was this guy, I think he was probably about my age, he was like a millennial, and he was making fun of Gen Z, just kind of poking fun, about Gen Z being obsessed with the '90s. And he's just, like, talking to his phone. He's like, "You love the '90s so much? Go wait for a bus without a phone. Go wait for a bus without a phone. Stare at your feet for a bit. Just stare at your feet. Look up at the tree. You're bored? Stare at your feet some more. Or throw a rock at a stop sign for 25 minutes." And I was cracking up because when I was a teenager, I didn't start driving until I didn't start driving until I was in my 30s, but, I didn't have a car until I was 18, and I took the bus everywhere, and I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't even have a flip phone until I was 18 and bought it myself. So it was just days of waiting and being so bored sitting at the bus stop, looking at my feet, and that's literally what it is. You're just, like, kinda sitting there, and you think about things, and it I took for granted at the time because it's so boring, but it gives the brain time to rest, and it gives the spirit time to rest. So even waiting for the bus today, we no longer have them because we have our mobile devices, and we can constantly scroll social media or read the news or consume, consume, consume. You might be even waiting for the bus as you're watching this. You might be in a waiting room, or you might be sitting in a car waiting for your family member to get done in the store, or something like that. So, because we live like that, when do our minds receive silence and peace? When was the last time you waited or for public without a convenient distraction such as a phone or even like a book? And I'm one of those people. I'm an avid reader. I love reading physical books, but even that, if we fill up all of our free time with kind of this inundating our brains and our minds and our spirits with some sort of content, we reduce the for mom. So when was the last time that you allowed yourself enough space and emptiness that you actually grew bored? I cannot remember the last time that I was actually, like, actually bored. Like, there are times when I'll be, like, over things and, like, watching a show or something, I'm like, "Ugh, this show is boring me," but I'm bored, it's grown tiresome, I've grown unentertained by it. It's like we constantly need to be entertained. That's just what our society has, um, conditioned us in. You know, we've gotten into that, habit of constantly being entertained. So it's no wonder then with all of that decadence with which we surround ourselves, uh, it can overwhelm our minds, and that overwhelm can seep into our ability to find true peace in our lives and our ability to bring true peace into the world. So think about the last time that you truly felt overwhelmed. For myself, it was just this last week. But maybe, in the last time you were feeling truly overwhelmed, maybe you were caring for a family member who was ill, or maybe you were in the middle of moving to a new city and taking on a new job. Perhaps you were the only one, or so it felt, cleaning your home or doing cooking, and for weeks and months, it weighed on you that no one else would help. Whatever the case was for the overwhelm, one thing is certain, it was probably difficult for you to conduct yourself peacefully and exercise compassion and loving kindness in that state of over. It's not impossible, but it is much more difficult to conduct ourselves that way in loving kindness and with compassion when we feel overwhelmed. Yet in our culture, we intentionally overwhelm ourselves. Overwhelm is almost expected as part of the status quo. We sign ourselves up for extracurricular activities, and we overbook ourselves all the time. We allow our children to overbook themselves. Personally in this boat right now with my daughter Nozomi, I'm extremely proud of her. She is a straight A student. She's taken 2 college credit courses in her high school as a freshman. She is in the, uh, county youth symphony as well as a traveling chamber orchestra where they have, like outside of school, they have actual gigs that they go to. She also was invited and accepted uh, to be the bassist in the jazz band, which means that she's learning an entirely new instrument. She's playing electric bass, and she just auditioned and signed up for the school play. So all of these things, while I want her to foster her interests and fill her spirit with these like the arts. I love the arts. I'm a big fan of the arts. I'm a big supporter of the arts. She's doing so well at school. She does not have them all, and it's on me as her parent to kind of help her realize like, okay, yes, you technically have time to do all these things. You have time in the day. There are hours enough in the day, but if you take all these things on, do you have hours in the day that you are able to just sit and just be uh, in a state of just stillness and emptiness? Because those moments when our brains are not go, 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 we are not needing to be somewhere or have obligations to something, that's truly where a lot of amazing insights and healing and um, connection to all happen. So, what if instead of prioritizing productivity, we prioritized peace? How could our world change if even just 10% of us, just 10% more peaceful than we do right now? If 10% of all of the humans in the world felt just 10% more peaceful and could bring just 10% more peace to all that we do, how could the world change? Years ago, I ran my own business in addition to working a full-time job for the man, as I like to say. My goal at that point was eventually to run my own business and provide myself with freedom of time. I wanted to set my own schedule, as a lot of people, I think, when they go into running their own business and being the owner of their business is kind of a draw. Very ignorantly and naively so, because to be a business owner is to give up all of your time to your business. You may just set your own schedule, but you never really stop working when you're a business owner. So hats off to all of my friends who are business owners out there. It is not easy. So I knew that I loved helping others, and I had a calling to create purpose in my life. I say that deliberately. I don't want to say that I had a purpose or I had a mission. Um, I think that can come across a little more recognizing than I intended to, but I had a desire to create. There's very much a calling in me even to live my life with purpose and bring purpose to it. Do I think that I was put on this earth with some grand, like God instilled in me, like these amazing gifts that I'm so special? No, not necessarily. I think all of us are kind of put here with certain gifts, but some of us have a fire inside of us to create purpose, and it's whether or not we can keep this project that I'm doing right now is one of the ways that I'm able to kind of foster this sense of creating purpose in my life. But anyway, I'm digressing. So I had this calling to create purpose in my life. So I thought at the time when I was, this is years ago when I run my own business, I thought if only I could make it my vocation, my life would feel complete and I could live my dream life. If I could make helping people be my vocation. People do it all the time. Doctors, clergy, uh, therapists, their vocation is helping people. I just wanted to do it on my own terms. I didn't want to work for a hospital or for a church or for a temple or for um, like a clinic. I wanted to do it kind of on my own. So I'm working a ton back down, and I justified how much I was working with the carrot that I promised myself, which was financial freedom and the freedom to set my own schedule. And to give you an idea of how much I was working at the so between my day job, my man job, and my business during the weekdays, so 5 days a week, I was working about 15 hours a day, usually from about 7 a.m. Honestly, probably even more than that because 7 is when I started my day job, and I would wake up at around 5 and work on my business before my day job. Then I would get done with that, and I would work until 10 PM at night on my personal business. And then on the weekends, I got off from my day job, but I would still work 9 hours a day on my personal business. And I did this all justifying it with sometime in the future, I'm going to have financial freedom and freedom of time. So this was a shiny carrot that only few ever truly succeed at. And I honestly, I'm not even sure if anyone does. It may even just be a myth that anyone gets this true freedom of, of this financial freedom, or more specifically with business owners, the freedom of time. I'm not sure if it really is real. I think it might be a myth. I don't know. Maybe the unicorns exist, but I do know that if it is real, it's very few who ever succeed at it. And even when they do, um, I would argue that they rarely get to find true peace. So instead of going through all of this, instead, what ended up happening was that I nearly lost everything. As a result of working under the ambition that I would one day have more time for my family, I regrettably and am embarrassed to admit that I neglected my family in favor of this future dream. I neglected the present for the elusive promise of one day I'll have this, one day we can do that. Just let me work. I had squeezed all of the ma out of my life, and with no ma, I was no more than a robot. The next few years were some of the hardest I've ever undergone, but in retrospect, I am grateful for them because if it weren't for that dark night of the soul, I would not have found how peaceful, calm my life could truly. It's not perfect because I have so much more peace in my life now. Hold on, I'm reading some of these notes, so I just misread that. So back up, let me restart it. It's not perfect, but I find I have so much more peace in my life now because I deliberately provided myself with Ma and continue to deliberately provide myself with Ma. And if I start feeling things spinning and growing overwhelmed, I know it's time to reevaluate my commitments. I have a lot less guilt around um, saying no to things and taking things on. I find myself with a lot less guilt of changing my mind if I commit to something. And thankfully, I also surround myself with people who also value that sort of equilibrium we have in life with peace and self-care, as we call it. So I don't have people who are like constantly harping on me to be a workaholic, which is nice. That is a difficult place to be in if you are surrounding yourself with others who are also workaholics, because that can make the conflict increase. So there will be times when we must experience overwhelm, such as caring for ill loved ones or going through a major life upheaval. I just had that just weeks ago. Nathan was completely bedridden for 12 weeks. He was not able to walk because he had a really bad bike accident. and I was his primary caregiver during those times. Um, over the course of the 12 weeks, he became more and more independent, but when we started, it was a situation where he couldn't even bathe himself. He could not get into the shower, so we had to do bed baths. I had to bring him all of his meals. He had to go to the bathroom. I needed to walk with him because he was in crutches, and he was a fall risk due to the painkillers that he was on. So there are going to be moments like that where we must experience this kind of sense of overwhelm just because that's just it's life. But our goal should be for those to only last as long as they do, and most importantly, we shouldn't have ambitions to keep ourselves in a state of stress, overwhelm long term, which in our culture, I think a lot of times people don't even know that they're overwhelmed because it's such a normal state of being for us as Westerners. This kind of live with the grind that we just sort of it becomes kind of we find a homeostasis in it, or so we think. And it's not until those things are able to fall away and peel away that we realize, like, wow, I was really like living it with a state of like, not eustress, which is good stress, but like bad stress. And that's what I was doing at the time. I just kept thinking, just be more available to others, just produce more, just work longer hours, just work, just more, more. And I had to stop to realize that what I was truly seeking, which was freedom with my time and a longing for could have seen how I was traveling very quickly in the wrong direction. So a lot of you, like on YouTube or just various social media, you'll hear me say in videos things like, I no longer create videos for other people. Like if people have requests and I feel called to like video requests, for instance, or topic requests, and I feel called at some point or inspired at some point to take that on, then I do. But I deliberately do not put time constraints on myself for how many videos I'm gonna put out or, how many stories I'm gonna post. I don't have any and I've said it on my YouTube channel, I think I've said it on various other social medias, I have 0 ambitions to become any sort of, like, influencer, and one of the bigger reasons for that, aside from, like, just enjoying, like, my private life, a lot of the big reason one of the big reasons for it is because I know the cost. I know the cost of that, and it's not worth it to me. So after my dark night of the soul, but while I was still swimming in the energy of unknowingness and I wasn't totally sure of who I was, a good friend asked me, "How are you?" And I stopped and I thought about it, and then I was able to sincerely tell them, "I'm actually so happy. It's so nice to not have so many obligations." This is, back when I was kind of like MIA from YouTube. I just sort of fell off and wasn't making videos, and I, like, removed everyone from my social media. I closed all my social media down, and I was just kind of fallen off the radar, and I was like, "This is nice. This is like, I have time to read, books if I want to. I have time to entertain, other, um, hobbies that I have and things that really fill my soul. I have time to lay around if I want or to go for a walk." And it was strange because it wasn't quite what I originally envisioned for myself all those years earlier, which at the time I had envisioned a sense of bliss. I was always kind of chasing this sense of bliss, and I wanted to live in that state, and I thought working for my dreams would get me there. Instead, what I felt was a very steady and subtle feeling. It was contentment, where bliss to me feels like these great waves of a typhoon. It's like really high highs, um, elation, intense joy. Contentment was the smooth, calm surface of a peaceful pond. Less exciting, but it's more steady and reliable. I had lived so long in these heightened emotions that I had never thought that I'd ever find satisfaction with an emotion as simple as contentment. But I found myself surprised at that moment as I realized that contentment was, in many ways, even better than bliss. I still have moments of bliss, and my life isn't always content, but because I deliberately make room for Ma, because Ma is there, because I give myself that emptiness in my schedule, that space in my physical surroundings by not having too much furniture and, like, clutter. Just see my altars now are much cleaner and streamlined. They're not, like, full of, like, a lot of things. You can see one of them behind me right now. The flowers aren't normally there. I actually bought those for you guys. So, those I would like to start buying flowers every week. They're pretty, and they bring joy. So I bought those for you guys, but normally they aren't there. I just have 5 candles on that altar, and that's it. I have several other altars in my home, and they're also very, um, kind of rare. And for those of you who watched my YouTube videos years ago, you know that my altars used to have a lot of things on them. And again, some people, that's how they like to practice, and that's how they feel connected magically with their altars, and that's fine. I'm saying that I deliberately recognized that I needed more Ma, and that was a way that I could bring that to myself. Where did I leave off? Okay, so I still have moments of bliss. Yes, okay. So it's easier for me because of that to access contentment more often than it used to be. The hard truth is that many of us impose these things on ourselves. Not always, but often. My life wasn't in a state of poor mom due to anybody else's doing. It was due to my own desires, my own comparison to others. Why was one of the reasons that I had all this stuff on my personal altars? It was because I compared myself to other witches. I compared myself to other magical practitioners, other holy people. I said, "Well, they have a lot of these things, and they're so cool, and I want those things. They have these tools, they have these beautiful decorations, and I want those." Same thing in my schedule. I was surrounding myself with people who valued the grind. To them, a sense of self worth was very tightly tied to how productive they were. If they weren't producing, they weren't a good person. And that is a very potentially dangerous state to live in. If I'm not producing, then I'm not a good person. If I'm not productive, if I'm not a good worker, then I am not a good person. And I just simply disagree with that because goodness comes, in my view, from the sincerity of our hearts and our ability to empathize and be compassionate to other people, the ability to conduct ourselves in loving kindness. And what faster way to destroy the potential for all of those things than to put ourselves under ton stress and pressure and make ourselves short and egotistical and uh, angry and stressed out all the time. So not only do I disagree with if I'm not productive, I'm not a good person. I actually think that it's inverted. If I'm too focused on being productive and too focused on time, that can strip away my ability to hold myself in goodness. So it was not due to anyone else. It was due to my own desires. It was due to my own wanting and even greed in some cases. The more I wanted, the more I needed to work for it, and the less ma I had in my time. The more I wanted, the more I needed to have, and the less ma I had in my environment. Everyone's threshold for clutter, whether clutter of time or clutter of space, is different. For instance, uh, Marie Kondo, a lot of you may know she was like went viral several years ago. She had her book and her Netflix series. And one of the things that she has people do is go through books. And if you aren't going to read something again, maybe get rid of it. And a lot of people misunderstand that concept of clutter clearing. Um, because some things, even if I'm not going to read them again, as far as books, do spark joy. And that's where people be like, okay, we have to get rid of all of this stuff because she said that we have to, and that's not necessary. My threshold for a clutter of books is far higher than some other people I know. Some people I know, they literally they read the book and then they donate it. They take what they want from the book, and then they know they're never gonna open it again, and they get rid of it because if they see it on the shelves, it's gonna stress them out because they don't like having a lot of books on their shelves, and that's their threshold. Me, my threshold for books, I have ambitions to have an entire personal library, which requires that I have at least 1,000 books. I'm like a third of the way there, maybe a little less. Um, I love having books in my home. I love surrounding myself with books. I love reading books. So my threshold for that is far greater. Uh, that doesn't feel to me like it takes away from my mom. But now if I had towers and towers of books, but I also had towers and towers of other things, and I'm effectively living in a state that feels like it's kind of claustrophobic and suffocating, that may be another story. So just keep that in mind that everybody's oh, my ring is going off. Everybody's threshold for clutter is going to be different. It's going to look different than yours. So keeping that in mind, this week, I encourage you to look around your environment, your physical environment, and also to consider your own daily schedule and think about whether or not you have adequate. Do you feel a sense of claustrophobia or a tightening in your chest when you look around your room? Or when you think of the obligations in your schedule, is there this, like, kind of restriction? Is that like because that restrictive feeling is a telltale sign that you should allow for more more negative space, more emptiness in your life. Only you can determine how to create that empty space. Only you can determine how much you need, how much feels good. But I hope that you do, because when we have good ma, we have room to breathe. And to breathe is to center oneself in peace, compassion, and loving. So there, that's it. That's everything that I have to share for you all today. I'm gonna see if there are any comments. Oh my gosh, Morgan, thank you for joining. You're making me wanna stop watching this and have some ma I was thinking about that. I don't think you're watching anymore, but I'll message you. I was thinking about that, like, as I was, reading the part about, like, you're sitting in your car waiting for your partner to come out of the store, or you're like, "What are you doing right now watching this video when you could go," like, yes, it's incredible, just, like, turning off screens, closing down the just like obligations. It's I don't want to speak on that quite yet because I'm not educated enough to say it in a way that would I don't want to misrepresent anything. But oh, I'll just say it. Okay. So I'm I'm and have been called more in recent years to my ancestral practice of Judaism and learning more about Jewish faith and Jewish culture. And one thing that Jewish culture has is something called Shabbat or Shabbos. And what it is just before sundown on Friday night to just after sundown Saturday night. Um, it's so just a little over 24 hours. It's this special observance that's meant to celebrate, and you bring you get together with your Jewish community, and you eat bread, and you drink wine, and you sing, and you pray, and you don't do work, you don't buy things, you don't have, depending on how strict you are in keeping the Jewish laws, you may not even have electricity. Um, there's no, you're not watching TV. You're spending time deliberately with one another in community, and it's an amazing way to end one week and begin another because it gives this deliberate pause of all of those implications. And that's something that's been built into Jewish culture forever, and it's so cool to me because as a Japanese person, that is law, like, that what they're doing is they're bringing more mom into their world. Now, ideally, mom would exist every day in various facets. For one, it wouldn't be something that you're grinding, 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 and then you just have only 24 hours to kind of rest and celebrate. But I just thought that that was so cool. That's effectively what Shabbos or Shabbat is this kind of bringing in of mom. So that was really cool. I want to see if there's any. Um, Hayden, thank you for asking. My friend Hayden asks how Nathan's recovery is going, by the way. I am pleased to report he has been off crutches for a while. He's been back at work he went back to work a month ago, so at the very beginning of November. And he's walking. He still walks a little wonky, but he's able to put full body weight on their legs, doing exercises to rebuild the muscle in his body that had basically dystrophy while he was bedridden for 12 weeks, because that's what happens. He's doing amazing, and he took full advantage of the time that he was spent with an abundance of ma, right? Because he didn't have to go to work. He was basically just lying in bed, and he'd watch TV, he would read, but sometimes he would just sit and just think. And the man that he is now, from the man that he was before his accident, is you can tell he spent that time very wisely doing a lot of inner work. And he could have complained. He could have been like, "I am so bored, I hate this," and, like, wanted to feed himself with, like, just, like, more things. He could have tried to, like, take more work while he was trying to be at home resting, but he took advantage of his misfortune as an opportunity for, growth, and that to me is very inspiring. So he's doing very well. Thank you for asking, Hayden. Yay, no, I worked on Iwata this time. Okay, I think I figured out what I did wrong the first time. So I don't know if there's any other. There's a lot to reflect on from this talk, Charlie. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's kind of what I hope from these. Is just kind of like things for us to think about and consider, and myself at the same time. I sort of allow myself inspiration for like what should I speak about this week, or what should be spoken through me this week, and I kind of plan it out like that. But it's really cool because I'm kind of going along uh, these lessons. Also, in a way, it's almost like I'm asking the universe, like, is what is a good lesson for me and also humanity? That's something that I can like speak through um, for this week, and then it's revealed to me, and then talk about it, and then the following week I attempt to live it. And last week it didn't go so smoothly. So I'm hoping that this week it does. We'll see. And then I got some comments on is this YouTube also. Oh, thank you so much, Magical Indigo Adult. Oh my gosh, Charlie, it's so nice to see you. I miss you so much on YouTube, but it's good to live in the moment of what you feel. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Will you ever come back to YouTube videos? It also helps people and yourself. I actually have made there are YouTube videos on my channel. I just don't I used to try to make, like, a video a week, I think it was, maybe 2 videos a week. I had been vlogging at that point for almost 10 years when I left, like, when I stepped away from YouTube. Um, and so I think that it was a combination of I was filming maybe, like, once a week or so and posting, but then if people saw that, then they could go to my older videos. So because there was this backlog of, like, 300 videos, I think it felt like I was maybe posting more than I was, um, but it really was just once a week, and now I just that's too much. I mean, I will technically, I guess, be posting roughly once a week because I'm gonna be streaming these ideally, once a week with the exception of the weekends that will work. I'm streaming them to YouTube, so in a way it is, but, I definitely don't have I used to have, like, very much structure my YouTube channel, like, on a Wednesdays, I talk about this, on Thursdays, I talk about that, and I don't feel that that serves the community anymore, and I know for sure it doesn't serve me anymore. And that's kind of where I guess I'm coming from with the Enlightened Addictive project is this is my way to this is one of many ways that I have to serve my community. As I've gotten older, being in service to others is while it's always been built into who I am, like, even as a child, like, even as a I have stories of me being, like, in 4th and 5th grade, doing these, like, things that were in service to others, but driven solely from my heart, like, that's just who I am as a person. So this is one of, many ways that I feel I can be of service to others. It's just probably the most, like, structured at this point, the most, because I'm like, "Okay, so this is what I'm going to do," whereas, other service that I do, I have I mean, the altar behind me that you see, it's weird because 'cause I'm used to now the mirror image, you guys can't see it, there it is. It's the camera view is messing me up. So that's my witch's healing the earth healing candle. So I do healing, magic for, like, the greater world, things like that, and then if I have friends or members who are having a difficult time, I'll ask if I can put them on the healing altar, like, those types of things, but, yeah, that's definitely a big part of who I am, but in order to I don't wanna be a martyr. In order to be an effective contributor to society in a way that brings peace and goodness, I must mind my ma. I must, because if I overwhelm my schedule, I get I lose sight of the big picture. So for myself personally, it's very important that I give myself, this time in order to be an effective, uh, contributor to society in a meaningful way. Yes, I have tons of things, but I think organizing my need helps because when I fix it, it feels better. It's amazing how much, like, tidying up and, like, organizing the things that you have, and just looking around and, like, everything just feels better. That is I don't know, that's it's hard for me to relax in an area that feels too, like, messy or cluttered, or, kind of disheveled because it is so linked with my psyche, which is a very common thing. A lot of people they say, like, the way that your desk looks is the status of, like, your mind. Um, and that's one thing I will say is that my desk is one area where I'm okay with it being a little bit messy because my brain is too. I tend to have a lot going on in my brain, but all the more reason for me, it's important for me to keep my space and my schedule as clutter-free as possible, because I'm so prone to chaos. I was kinda categorize myself as chaotic good, and a lot of that chaotic part comes from the fact that my brain is just the way that it works is a bit chaotic. Have you hiked some of the spots you used to hit years ago with Nozomi? No, those are all, not recently. Those are all in my Old Town Madison. So we moved about 2.5 hours away from there about 5 years ago, so I no longer have, easy access to those spots, but sometimes we do when we get back to the area, and this next summer I had ambitions of doing it last summer, but then Nathan went and broke his hip, so we couldn't, but, I wanna go back to hiking Devil's Lake, because that area in particular is just filled with, um like nature spirits. It's incredible. So, yeah. But, we are coming up on about an hour of this stream, so I appreciate everyone who was able to sit in and join, whether live or in the future when you see this as a replay. Um, yeah, I hope that your week goes well and that you're able to find Ma in your schedule, that you're able to make moments for you to sit and reflect and allow there to just be some moments of breath between the tasks. It's much easier said or planned than it is done in our society, unfortunately, but it is not impossible. So if you are interested in trying that, it's very much possible. But anyway, I'm going to get going because in about an hour, I'm going to go see a ballet with my family. We're going to go see the Nutcracker. I'm very excited. And yeah, so I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much love. Oh, now I have to figure out how to get out of all of these things gracefully. So I said goodbye, and then I'm still here. Okay, figure this out. Is this gonna let me out? End stream.